So for this assignment number 12, we're doing data gathering and personal balance sheet. This should be taught as a consultative process and not a data gathering exercise. The goal is to help the client understand why we're doing what we're doing, and that is to collect information and position ourselves as financial coach rather than someone selling products. Here's a duplicatable script that I'm hoping that we can use to educate others in this process. So, to begin, the best thing to do is to pre-frame our client. Why are we collecting financial data? One of the biggest questions people ask me is, why do we need all this information? That's a fair enough question. And so what we want to lead with is we want to explain that our process is very, very simple. We began by education. Okay. So we educate people and we understand needs and gaps through this education. And remember, personal finance is such a vast area, and so we can't really talk about everything. So what we want to make sure is we're talking about relevance, things that are relevant. So relevant needs and gap. So if somebody's 50 years old, in their 50s with kids off to college, we're not going to talk to them about college planning. If they're in their 50s and just raising kids are still in grade school, we're not going to talk to them about retirement, as an example. This is just things that we don't want to be talking to clients about because it's irrelevant to them. So relevance is very, very important. We need to keep things relevant. And so as we go through this need and gap, we would flush out things that is potentially going on, and we might identify some needs, and we go, great job, you've done well on that, but there's an area in which we need to go out to our into the financial industry and find the best solutions to best meet this particular need. So this one is okay, it's okay, good job. And we need to bridge the gap with this area in which we have gap. And so as we've talked about before, through this process, client pays $0 as we go through this entire process. And then the way we get comped here is this financial institution pay us a compensation here if one of their solution end up being used to bridge the client's situation. Okay, so identifying gaps, finding solution to closing the gap. Once we identify the right solution, the financial institution then compensate us. We don't charge you or the client for the planning process. So what we can so before we make recommendations, we first need to understand the client's full picture. And the analogy that we use is very much like a doctor. So just like going to visit a doctor, if you walk into a doctor's office and you refuse to provide medical history, blood pressure, lab work, or symptom, it's impossible for the doc to make an accurate diagnosis. So we are financial doctors here. And so it's the same with finances. If we want to help reduce taxes, for example, improving cash flows, eliminate debt, protect our family, or prepare for retirement, we need to fully understand your financial vitals. That's why we complete what we call the personal financial balance sheet. Okay. And again, we don't teach everything, as we discussed earlier, because it's just finance, personal finance is such a huge topic. So we want to zero in just effectively addressing situations that is relevant to the client's need. Okay. So